Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating investment thesis about the one metal that could become the biggest bottleneck for pretty much all of global progress, from AI and robotics all the way to the green energy transition.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. The source material for this whole thing kicks off with a pretty simple but really powerful question. When you think about our tech-heavy future, AI, data centers, all of it, what's the one thing that could actually stop it all in its tracks?
Now, you might be thinking gold or silver, maybe something exotic like lithium. But nope, the answer, according to this analysis, is something way more common, something that's been an industrial workhorse for us for, well, millennia: copper.
So you're probably asking, why copper? I mean, it's everywhere, right? Well, according to this analysis, we're staring down a huge, looming crisis. And it all boils down to a classic case of supply and demand, but on steroids.
The argument really starts by showing just how critical copper's role is. It's totally non-negotiable. AI data centers, they are absolutely packed with it. Electric vehicles use way more copper than regular cars. And those new power grids we need for renewables, all of it, every single wire runs on copper. It really is, quite literally, the backbone of progress.
And this is where the numbers just get mind-boggling. The source claims that to power just the next couple of decades of innovation, we're going to need to mine as much copper as we have in the entire history of humanity. Just let that sink in. The last 10,000 years of mining, we have to do it all over again in the next 18.
So what you end up with is this incredibly dangerous mismatch, right? On one side, you've got demand just going through the roof at a pace we've never seen before. But on the other, well, you can't just wish a copper mine into existence. The source makes it super clear. It can take more than 15 years to discover a deposit and actually get a new mine up and running. Supply just can't react quickly.
And this is where you start to see the panic setting in. I mean, look at what a company like Amazon is doing. Their entire cloud empire depends on data centers filled with copper. So what do? They go out and lock up the entire future production from a new copper mine. This isn't just a smart supply deal. The analysis frames this as a strategic move born out of fear of scarcity. It's corporate panic buying.
So, if all that's true, demand is exploding, supply is totally constrained, you'd expect the price of copper to be going absolutely crazy, right? Well, the source asks a great question. Why hasn't it?
And this chart really gets to the heart of the whole investment argument. You see precious metals like gold and silver hitting these record highs. They're all over the news, getting all the attention. But copper, its price has been way more subdued. According to the source, this suggests its big move, it just hasn't happened yet.
This leads us to the big thesis. We are in the very early innings of what's called a copper supercycle. This isn't just some temporary price spike we're talking about. It's a long-term structural bull market driven by that massive imbalance we just talked about. And it's still flying completely under the radar of most investors.
Okay, so if you believe in this super cycle idea, how would you even play it? The source material illustrates the potential by zooming in on one specific example, a small company called Super Copper Corp. that they say is positioned to ride this exact wave.
So who is Super Copper? Well, they're a small Canadian exploration company. The source highlights a few key things. They have a really tiny market cap, which means a lot more potential room to grow. They're set up in Chile's Atacama region, which is basically the Saudi Arabia of copper, and they've got a huge piece of land to explore.
All right, so let's really break this down. The source lays out 4 key pillars for why this specific company is presented as such a compelling illustration of the broader theme.
Okay, first up, and this is the really big one, the quality of what they've found. The source's data shows that a sample from their project came back with a copper grade of 17.7%. Now, just for some perspective, the global average for copper ore is about 0.5%. That means this sample is over 30 times richer than what a typical mine is working with. That's a huge deal.
And you can bet the company's own CEO isn't downplaying this. He calls it a pivotal, defining discovery moment, the kind of event that changes everything that follows.
All right, the second piece of the puzzle is the leadership. The source emphasizes that this is not an amateur operation. The team is like a dream team of industry pros. You've got a former chief geophysics officer from a major firm, a lead geologist with a proven track record of finding millions of ounces of gold, and a CEO who has already successfully built a mining company before. These guys know what they're doing.
The third argument is about their business model. It's designed to squeeze every last drop of value out of what they have.
The strategy highlighted here focuses on using advanced tech to get more copper out of the ground, reduce waste, and ultimately drive higher profit margins. It's a smart approach, not just a brute force one.
And finally, the source points to a series of upcoming events that it believes could each act as a huge price catalyst. The argument is that this story isn't static, it's just getting started. With new drilling, new results, and potential expansion all planned for 2026, there are multiple big moments on the horizon. Okay, so that's the deep dive on one company. But let's zoom back out, because the real point here is to understand the broader takeaway from this specific case study.
So, to sum it all up, the source's argument is that this company, Super Copper, represents this perfect storm of factors. You have the right metal, copper. In the right region, Chile. At the right time, the very beginning of a supercycle, and with a tiny valuation. It's used as a textbook example of the type of opportunity that could pop up because of this broader copper crisis.
And that leaves us with one last, really thought-provoking question. The story of copper reminds us that our digital world, which feels so invisible and in the cloud, is actually built on a very physical, very finite foundation. And it makes you wonder, what other essential, overlooked material is going to become the critical bottleneck of tomorrow?